Now I'm going to give you a quick overview of the navigation and settings in Adobe Photoshop CC 2014. There are obviously a lot of different navigations and settings and tools and things like that, but I'm going to try and home in on the ones that we will use for this course. So one of the first ones we'll end up using will be the crop tool down here. You can click on this in the toolbar. You can also hold it down to bring up other options of this tool, and you'll notice this letter C here. So if you are on another tool, you have another tool selected, you can press C on your keyboard and it will select the crop tool, and that is the shortcut for that. If you hover over it, it also tells you the shortcut. It does that for any tool that you hover over. You've also got these options up here that pop up when you select that tool. Each tool will have different options. You can see them changing as each different tool is selected. So on our crop tool, we have this little drop down here which has some presets for this tool, and that's just to select to keep it on that tool. If you deselect that, it will bring up other tools. Best to keep that checked. You've also got some settings here, and you can make a new tool preset if you're so inclined, and you can also set the ratio here. So this would be your width and your height on these two, and you can have set ones for that as well, and that will crop as you drag out to a certain ratio. You can clear that at any time by just pressing the clear button, and then there's various other options along here as well, which we'll go into in more detail when we get to them. Another thing that we're going to be doing in this course is working with the layers. This is your layers panel down here. If you don't have it up in Photoshop as standard, you just go into window here and make sure that this is turned on, it's ticked. It's up here. It's also got a shortcut of F7. If we click it, it will disappear. Because that shortcut is F7, I'll just show you now. I press F7 on my keyboard and the layers panel pops up again, and this is where your layers are going to appear. So if we start a new document here just real quick, that's our first layer, our background layer, and then we can have a new layer on there, and that will pop up above the other layer. So that is how your layers will be stacked. The higher the layer, the closer to the foreground it is, so everything we do on the background will be behind this layer 1 in this case. We're also going to be using the Marquee Tool, which is this one here. The shortcut for this is M. We can also just click it if we want to, and if we hold it down we can bring up these other Marquee Tool options, which are for all different shapes of Marquee Tool. You just hold that and drag it out. Again, you can set different options up here. You can make it so it's a fixed ratio, so it will only drag out like a square or a rectangle of a certain size, anything like that. You could also feather the edges so you don't just get a stiff edge. That's really good for cropping and selecting and making shapes, all kinds of things. You can use this Marquee Tool, and one thing you will find with Photoshop is there's lots of different ways to go about doing exactly the same thing, and it's about finding the way that's best for you. So another thing we're going to be doing is masking. We'll be using the masking tool. We'll be using all different tools to mask as well, and creating different layers of colour with that. We'll also be using Camera Raw. Another thing you can do with Camera Raw is go into Edit, Preferences, and you can see here Camera Raw, and then you can set up certain preferences for Camera Raw when we come to use it. So it's all very customizable. Okay. And when we come to do the logo part of the course, we're going to be using effects. There's heaps of different effects you can put on logos. I mean, we've got different blending options here, which you can add certain effects to, drop shadows, things like that. We can also have filters with all these different stylizations, renders, pixelations. You can sharpen edges, all kinds of things. It's just so customizable, and we're going to come to that when we get to the logo section of this course. So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.